the reason for this is I was involved a few weeks back in I stumbled into a book that a rabbi by the name of Heschel had written on the Sabbath. And I wanted to talk to y'all this morning about the Sabbath and about the foundation of that, the symbols of that, and what the Sabbath is for us and how it has worked its way through time. Now, it's very difficult to separate time and space. We deal with space. I mean, we're in it. We're in it. We work in order to have things in space. We have to provide for our families. And we need to be careful that that doesn't overtake us. And then, what's more important is time. Because that's the real hard currency. That's the limited commodity for each one of us. And God deals with that right from the very beginning. So I want us to look at Genesis chapter 1, beginning in verse 26. We'll start reading. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And God blessed them. And God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. And have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. I want to make a couple of points here in this verse. And I'd like for you to note that on the sixth day, God looked at everything and it was very good. On the first day of creation, he goes to work, he looks at it when it's done, and he says, it was good. There was evening and there was morning the first day. And the second day he works, and he looks at it and he says, it was good. Evening and morning, second day. It is only on the sixth day when God makes man and he is completed that it was very good. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God had rested from all his work that he had done in creation. Do you see a difference here on the seventh day? The first 6 days, there was evening and there was morning. That's not said on the seventh day. On the seventh day, God made it holy. He rested from all his work, and then he settled in. This speaks to an eternal day. between God and man. No morning and evening on the seventh day. This speaks to the relationship that God had with Adam and Eve in the garden. Now, the garden was a holy space, wasn't it? God will only be in a holy space. He is a holy God. And now he has time. He puts time in place for man. We talk about life under the sun. Not that it's hot because of the sun. What does that mean, life under the sun? It is a rhythm, isn't it? There is morning, there's evening for us, there is day, and that gives us the rhythm of life. And God makes that rhythm into a week. And the time is holy on the Sabbath. What happens in Genesis 3? We have a holy space. We have a holy time on the Sabbath. And then sin enters the world. Adam and Eve are exiled from the garden. No longer are they allowed to partake of that fruit of eternal life. Now, the ground is not going to participate with the work that Adam does. Adam had work from the beginning. God gave Adam work to do from the very beginning. Tend the garden and keep it. And the ground would participate with Adam and Eve. Now the ground is cursed. Now we live in a fallen world. That holy space is removed. And what about the time? Now, all the days, that's your time, all the days of your life will be in pain. Now, when we work, it is by the sweat of our brow, yes? And the Sabbath is removed. It's not until we get to Sinai that the Sabbath is spoken of again. It's first mentioned in Exodus 16. And God says to Moses, "What on Friday, what do you gather up? I'm going to put manna on the ground. And on Friday, you better gather up a double portion because there won't be any tomorrow. It's going to be the Sabbath." That's the first mention that we have of the Sabbath. Let me tell you what else. The space is brought back in a limited form. The holy space. What does God give Moses on Sinai but the blueprints of the tabernacle? Yes? That is a what's the proper?
Blueprint?
It's the blueprint for the tabernacle, but it is the garden brought back in a similar form.
Consolation.
There we go. And in that tabernacle, there's a holy space, inside of which was the Ark of the Covenant, on top of which was the mercy seat. And God would now communicate with man in that holy space. And God says to the children of Israel at Sinai, "I'm now going to give you the Sabbath, a holy time for you to have." Leviticus chapter 23. Here God says, 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord in all your dwelling places. What is God seeking here? 6 days you work in space. Why do you work in space? Why do you have a job? Why do you need to provide? Because you have a wife. Yes? She and your children need to eat. You've got to work with what we have here in order to provide.
We were made to work. Before Adam and Eve had
We
children,
were made to work in a holy space where it would be a blessing to work. Now, it's not always a blessing.
It's probably why it feels good to be productive and to work.
Doesn't it?
It's sometimes.
Or to be appreciated.
Yeah, but not being productive or being out of work,
Right.
a man or a woman, and if a woman needed to, you feel terrible.
Right.
And when you're productive and you worked hard, even though it was hard and it was sweat and it feels wonderful afterward.
And that's a gift. That's a blessing from God. Stephanie will keep me in check. Yes, you will, because on this you got me in check a couple of weeks ago. All right.
You can't ask me before, or I'm just gonna stay silent.
What does Sabbath mean? I didn't know Sabbath had a meaning. I figured, I just thought it was the name of a day of the week. I didn't know there was an actual meaning behind Sabbath. I think of it like this. If I'm driving my chariot around in the desert, around Mount Sinai, and I come up to an intersection, and there's a red octagon, and on that sign it wouldn't say stop, it would say Sabbath. Well, she's already doesn't like my analogy. Sabbath means to stop. Yes? It means to cease.
I always took it as a day designated and dedicated to worship. That's how I interpret it.
Well, but that would be why. That would be why man has to stop. And then in verse 23, we are a Sabbath. It is of a solemn rest. What do you do when you stop? God says you'll have a rest. It is a stop rest, because we're reading from right to left. So the first word in Leviticus 23 is Sabbath, and then it is followed by a solemn rest. A stop rest is what man is given by God. Now, why the number 7? Now this is where Stephanie got me. Look, if and when I mess up, and I will, she's in charge of the Hebrew. If and when I mess up in the Greek, Jim Faulkner comes to me. And when I mess up in the English, Bill Teagarden comes to me. All 3 of these have come to me, and they've done it very lovingly and very patiently, and I try my best. So, I believe it was 7th. I put this word up a few weeks back, and I said, what's the meaning of the 7th? And then I had this definition down. It is when something is complete or whole or full. And Stephanie came and said, no. That's 7. This is 7. Shabbat?
Yep.
Okay. Now, this had a meaning by God. The number 7 is what is called a perfect number. It is complete, whole, it is full to the top. That was what 7 is. Then on the 7th, it is the moment of culmination or the manifestation of that complete number. That's what the Sabbath was. It was the 7 days. It was on that 7th day that God blessed it and gave that to Israel. The 7 deal plays all throughout Scripture. So I said in the beginning, Genesis 1:1. You can quote that for me.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
In Hebrew, it's 7 words. I mean, that's pregnant with meaning. It is full, divine, complete. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And now we have the Shabbat, the week. And it is a rhythm that is put in place for all these feasts. Leviticus 23, the whole chapter, please go and read Leviticus 23. But these are the appointed feasts of the Lord. They're all based on that full week, on that Sabbath. Now, how many feasts are in Leviticus 23? 7. You can't get away from it. If you think you can get away, you can't get away from it.
Is one more important than the other? It's good.
Is one feast more important than the other? I would say all those feasts are pointing towards what?
Passover.
The Messiah. They're all leading to the Messiah. And you can find him in every single one of those feasts. I want to look at Exodus 31. Here, the Sabbath is brought out in the Torah multiple times. That's another thing I'd like for us to, real quick side point. When I say Torah, you think law. That's how that has been interpreted. It's not necessarily, that's not a good definition. There is an idea of the Torah being a guiding light. These are things that are to bring us to God, okay? In Exodus 31, the Lord said to Moses, "You are to speak to the people of Israel and say, above all you shall keep my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I, the Lord, sanctify you. You shall keep the Sabbath, because it is holy for you." Was he serious about the Sabbath? Everyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Whoever does any work on it, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. We were out to dinner with Julian Wayne, and we were talking about Iceland, and they visited, and what a low crime rate they have there, because their laws are very, very extreme. And one of those sometimes is you're cut off. You're pushed out. You're shunned. You're living above the Arctic Circle. That's being cut off from your people. Very serious. Beginning in verse 15. 6 days shall work be done, but on that 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. Therefore, the people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath throughout their generations as a covenant forever. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel, that in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. What is it for God to rest? Did he get tired? No. Will says no, he didn't get tired. Did he need to replace those electrolytes? What do you think God rested? I said earlier, when he set the Sabbath and made it holy, he settled in. I was thinking that the other night we had family dinner, and we gathered here in family dinner. And Trundy and I were here first, and Jamie and Terry came through the door. They thought they were late. They weren't. All was good. And as each member of the family came through the door, I felt myself beginning to just settle in. This is a good time, and you settle into those. You need to enjoy those and let that be a relationship building thing. That is God resting, I believe, on the Sabbath. Exodus 31, he specifies this is a sign between God and Israel. This special day was not given to the Gentile. It wasn't given to the nations. It is a sign specifically between God and Israel. The violation of which we saw death. Now, we just have the term work. My dad loved to work. Work for him was play. I know a lot of people like that. They want to go out and pull weeds. You got to define what work is. And that's what the rabbis were trying to do. If violating work carried the death penalty and it severed the relationship with God, you need to know what work is. The primary labors that are forbidden, 40 less 1, and now we have 39 things that have accumulated. Don't extinguish a fire, don't kindle a fire. For all men, no sowing, no farming, no plowing or reaping. You know, as I think, what did Jesus call these? The traditions of the elders? You remember when his disciples were walking through the field and they were hungry and they were plucking the grain? And he got called on the carpet for that, right? Well, the Mishnah is man not trying to be legalistic, but man trying to protect that relationship between themselves and God and not to violate the Sabbath.
Did they fast? Year and a half?
I don't have that, no.
Because you couldn't.
You just had to have it prepared before.
Yeah.
You just had to have it prepared before, just like the when the manna was being active, right? You needed to collect that double on Friday. Yeah, yeah.
Stove first and hot car.
No, can't cook it.
What? What's that?
Can't cook it? Okay.
They still do that. They won't, like, everything's prepared the day before and
Right.
left on some kind of like heating element that they
Okay.
don't turn off.
Right.
Like, you can't turn any switches. That's how
Right,
they
right,
interpret it.
right. Yeah, because of the extinguishing or the kindling,
Exactly.
you can't. This is
Yeah,
where you
'cause
can't
we
turn
don't
on
use
the
fire,
light.
we use
You turn on
electricity,
the
so
light.
now electricity switches don't go on or off.
Yeah.
I like to eat Pop Tarts.
And once again, they're just trying to stay in relationship with God. With that, yes.
Oh, Marenko just whispered to me that some of the Serbs abide by this, where they don't do things on Sunday.
Yes.
Slobo Nana, Uina, they don't wash their clothes as soon as the sun goes down Saturday, they're done.
Yeah.
Which is very hard for Serb women to do, so.
Right, right, right.
To
Yeah,
rest.
it's very difficult for people to stop working.
Yes.
But who gave this list?
This would be the
Right.
elders.
The Israelite elders?
Yeah.
Okay, and where did that come from, this list?
It's from the Mishnah. It is the,
It says both,
well, it's the oral tradition, and then it was written down into
Okay.
writings that they would
but did the
observe.
Israelites know this? Was this their list as well?
Well, they
We
definitely,
don't know, cause it's not written in the Bible like that.
we don't have this in our canon, but it would be with,
Okay.
for them.
Okay,
It, yeah, involves, it usually just evolves to more strictness in detail.
Right.
Kind of like if you have the law, you know, you're dealing with legal issues and people set a precedent.
It's very rare that one is just
Yeah, they add.
eliminated.
And they, you know, things are added and expanded, but
Yeah.
not, you know, amended.
Yeah,
Not
not
taken out.
unregulated. Exactly. Exodus chapter 20, this is where the Sabbath is given in the, what we call the 10 Commandments. That would be the 10 utterances. It would be the 10 words that God gave Moses. And I like, Rabbi Hashel says on this, there's a male and female perspective to the beginning of this commandment. Says, it starts off in verse 8, God says, remember the Sabbath. Why? Because men can't remember anything. We're not real good at remembering. We need to be reminded to remember that your wife has a birthday, or your anniversary, or that first date. But remembering here has more than just a mental thought. This needs to be something that we physically prepare for, that we physically take care of. I was about to say you'll remember. In the Judges, when the Israelites were being oppressed and they would cry out to God, it would say God would remember them. He would remember his promises. It's not that he ever forgot, it's that he would take action in lieu of that. And that is for us to do. That was for the Israelite male to do. He needed to remember the Sabbath. Be ready, because if that sun goes down, now they are to keep it holy. They said this is for the female, because women don't forget anything. As Jody looks over. But women keep. Mary watched Jesus grow up, and she watched him gain favor with God and man. And what did she do? She kept it in her heart. Women keep that house. They keep that heart. They keep things holy. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Why make them stop?
If you don't, they'll put that in.
We'll just keep on, won't we? They'll just keep on. And God is seeking relationship with his people. On it, you shall not do any work. You or your son or your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your livestock, the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. It's for relationship purposes. It's not just to be lazy. It's not just to watch college football or just be a couch potato. It is a matter of meditating on God. It's a matter of looking towards those spiritual things. The therefore here, though, goes back to creation. That's why we begin in Genesis. God saw all the good work he had done. It was very good, and therefore he blessed that seventh day. It's a little different here in Deuteronomy, the second giving of the law, in Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 15. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, You think Pharaoh gave him a day off? He was a tyrant. There was no rest for the Israelite. He was beaten and forced to labor. And God says, remember, you were a slave. This goes back to that hard work, that toilsome, hard labor, where nobody appreciates it. It's just a tyrant forcing you to work. It's something that oppresses you and captives you. And the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, because you were a slave in Egypt and God set you free, therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. This is rest from slavery. I want to look at a couple of more issues with you. We're going to pick this up next week and deal with this a little further, but I want to put these into your mind. I talked about the feast of Leviticus 23. Here in verse 15, we have the Feast of Weeks, or the Feast of Sevens. In verse 15, it says, you shall count 7 full weeks from the day after the Sabbath. Now that's the Passover Sabbath. From the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count 50 days to the day after the 7th Sabbath. Then you shall present a grain offering of new grain to the Lord. What do we know this as? This is Pentecost. Okay? We get that from the 50. But what we have are 7 full Sabbaths, and they take us to 49 and then over 1. Over 1 to 50. It is full and it overflows into 50. Leviticus chapter 25, one more I want you to keep in your mind. Leviticus 25, we had Sabbath years. You recall this. They were farmers, they had multiple fields, and they were allowed to plant crops in said field for 6 years. Then on the 7th year, no crops planted in that field. George Washington implemented this up in Mount Vernon. You'll read about if you go up. He did Sabbath fields. And on that 7th year, that field was allowed to remain fallow. That was so the field could rest, so the field could regenerate. It's done every 7 years. Now, in Leviticus 25 and verse 8, you shall count 7 weeks of years. 7 times 7 years. 7s are everything. So that the time of the 7 weeks of years shall give you how many? I was going to ask Morgan, but okay. That's all right. 7 times 7, 49. She better know that. You shall give years shall give you 49 years. Now what is this? It's generational. Every 49 years, we got 7 years times 7. Then you shall sound the loud trumpet on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the Day of Atonement, you shall sound the trumpet throughout all your land. Now, you shall proclaim, you shall consecrate the 50th year, not the 49th year, the 50th year, and you will proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a trumpet blast to you. It shall be a jubilee to you. When each of you shall return to his property, and each of you shall return to his clan, on that 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. In it you shall neither sow nor reap what grows of itself, nor gather the grapes from the undressed vines. For it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You may eat the produce of the field. Go read Leviticus chapter 25. It's all about the jubilee. But the jubilee was huge. It was a reset. Slaves were set free. Land went back to the original owner. You went back to where you came from. I tried my best at a chart. And these are the three things that we looked at today. And we'll pick up on these next week. But the weekly Sabbath, we had 7 days. Seventh day, stop, rest. 7 times 1, God's work was completed in Genesis. The Feast of Sevens, you got 7 weeks. On the 50th day, it is full up and overflowing. In the Jubilee, we have 7 times 7 years. On that 50th year, plus 1, ultimate rest and renewal. That was a lot. It's a lot of sevens. They're important. Like I said, all of these are a foreshadowing and pointing towards something in the future. What we lost in Genesis 3 was a relationship with God. And from that point forward, he has been seeking to restore that relationship. And that is what the entire history of man and the entire history of the Bible is, to bring us back into relationship with God. That's what you need. That's what I need. And God knows what my grandkids need. Okay? I had a songbook up here I was going to grab, but I think you took it. Do we have a closing song?